So I want to kick this off with a scenario that I think is going to be painfully familiar to a lot of people listening, maybe even to you. Picture this. It's, I don't know, Tuesday morning. You have a to-do list. It's totally reasonable. It's doable. You sit down, you open your laptop, and then just nothing.
Nothing happens. The screen is just staring at you, and you're staring right back.
Exactly. And the frustrating part is you want to do the work. You know you should be doing the work, but you just can't, like, physically make your hands type.
And then the shame spiral starts.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah.
You start throwing these words at yourself like lazy, undisciplined, or the big one, procrastination.
We love to diagnose ourselves, don't we? It's like we think we're broken appliances that just, need a new fuse or better instruction manual.
Right. And the usual advice is buy a planner or try the Pomodoro technique. But today we're looking at something completely different. We're doing a deep dive into a piece by Jaime Hoerricks, a PhD, that basically takes all those clinical words, procrastination, avoidance, dysfunction, and just throws them out.
It's a really bold article. The title is Executive Functioning: Symptoms Rewritten as Weather Reports, From Deficits to Forecasts of the Fifth Dimension.
Okay, I have to be honest. When I first read Forecasts of the Fifth Dimension, it sounded a little woo-woo.
I get that.
Like I need to buy some crystals to finish my spreadsheet.
It does sound esoteric, I'll give you that. But the core argument is actually incredibly practical. It's all about this massive shift in perspective. Hoerricks argues that what we call symptoms...
Like not being able to start a task.
Yeah, exactly. They aren't deficits. They're not failures. They're weather reports from your body.
So instead of thinking, I'm broken, it's more like, it's raining inside?
Precisely. And if it's raining, you don't stand outside and scream at the sky for being wet. You get an umbrella. So the mission for this deep dive is to see if we can, translate this harsh clinical language into something your body might actually understand and maybe even trust.
A language the body might trust. I really like that because my body definitely does not trust the word deadline.
It hears deadline and thinks saber-toothed tiger, right?
100%.
And that's because the standard language, that kind of office talk, it's all about compliance. It's about measuring your output. Hoerricks has this great line. She calls words like time blindness or task switching the vocabulary of weather described by someone who has never left the office.
Which is such a good burn. It's like a guy in a windowless room looking at a weather chart and telling you it's not cold outside, even though you're literally shivering.
Exactly. It's an external judgment on an internal reality. So let's try this. Let's do the translation exercise she proposes.
Okay.
We're going to take the things you probably beat yourself up for and give them new names.
Let's start with the big one. The heavy hitter. Procrastination.
The thief of time.
The reason I was up until 2 a.m. in college, Hoerricks says we should stop calling it procrastination and start calling it ripening.
Ripening.
Okay, I'm going to push back right away. Because ripening sounds lovely and gentle. But if I tell my boss, hey, sorry, I didn't send that report, it was still ripening, I'm pretty sure I'm getting fired.
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Is this just a semantic trick to make us feel better?
Yeah, am I just being lazy?
Well, to answer that, we have to look at what's actually going on. When you think procrastination, you think of doing nothing.
Right, I'm doom scrolling, or I'm just staring at a wall.
But what Hoerricks argues is that for many neurodivergent brains, or what she calls gestalt processors, that downtime isn't empty time. It's actually active.
How so?
Think of a tomato on a vine. A green tomato isn't a failed red tomato. It's just not ready. If you pick it early, it's hard, it's bitter, it's useless.
So the email I'm trying to write is, the tomato.
Yes. And while you're staring at that wall, your brain is doing all this back-end processing. It's connecting dots, it's checking the tone, structuring the argument, it's ripening the idea so that when you do sit down to type, it just flows out.
You know, that does happen sometimes. I'll struggle for hours, get nothing done, then walk away, and suddenly the whole thing comes to me and I bang it out in 20 minutes.
That's the harvest. The standard world sees those first few hours as wasted time.
Totally.
But the weather report view sees those hours as the necessary season. It's the sunshine and the rain you needed to grow the fruit.
But how do I know the difference? I mean, how do you tell if you're ripening or if you're just avoiding something because it's scary?
Well, that brings us to the second translation, avoidance.
Or as they call it, demand avoidance.
Right. Someone tells you to do the dishes and suddenly a physical wall goes up and you cannot do the dishes.
I know that wall. It's a very real wall.
Hoerricks renames this sovereignty.
Sovereignty. That's a big word. Sounds like kings and queens.
Well, it is about power. It's about autonomy. See, avoidance sounds like fear, like you're running away from something.
Right.
But sovereignty is about standing your ground, that wall you hit. It's usually because your brain feels coerced. It feels like you've lost control over your own choices.
So my refusal isn't actually about the dishes. It's about the fact that I didn't get to choose to do the dishes.
Exactly. It's your brain saying, I am a sovereign being, not a robot you can program. It's a reclamation of self.
Wow. Okay, that changes the whole strategy. Because if I think I'm avoiding, I try to force myself through it. I use guilt. Just do it, you lazy jerk. But if it's about sovereignty, well, guilt is just going to make that wall even higher.
You can't bully someone into feeling safe and in control. If the weather report says high winds regarding sovereignty, you don't just march out into the storm.
You have to find a way to make it feel like a choice again.
You have to invite yourself back to the table.
Which is a perfect segue, actually. Because if we're inviting ourselves to a table, we need to talk about the kitchen.
Yeah.
This was the part of the article that made me laugh out loud because it just felt so chaotic and so real. We need to talk about Maslow's cake versus Glasser's kitchen.
This is a fantastic critique of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of us saw this in, Psych 101, it's a pyramid.
Right. Bottom level is food, shelter, survival stuff. Then you move up to safety, then love, then self-esteem. And way, way at the top, if you get there, is self-actualization. It's all very neat and tidy.
It is. Hoerricks calls it neat tiers of needs stacked like a polite cake. You have to eat the bottom layer before you're allowed to eat the second layer.
But she says real life, especially for people who think a little differently, doesn't look like a polite cake.
No. She says for the Gestalt processor, life arrives like a kitchen at 5 o'clock, several hungers speaking at once.
I feel that in my bones. 5 o'clock is pure panic time. The dog's barking, the pasta's boiling over, my kid is asking about the meaning of life, and I also really need to use the bathroom.
It's all happening at once. And this is where she brings in William Glasser's choice theory. Glasser suggests we don't have a pyramid, we have a round table. And sitting at that table, all at the same time, are 5 core needs: belonging, power, freedom, fun, and survival.
And they're all just shouting over each other.
They're all negotiating. And unlike Maslow, you can't just say, well, survival comes first, so I'll ignore my need for fun.
Maslow would absolutely say that. Do the boring spreadsheet so you don't get fired. You can have fun on Saturday.
Right. But Glasser's model explains why that strategy so often fails. If your need for, say, freedom or fun is starving, if it hasn't eaten in days, it basically goes on strike.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't matter that the survival need is screaming about the deadline. The freedom need is flipping the whole table over.
This explains so much. I have definitely had moments where the stakes were like real survival on the line, and I was paralyzed because the task just felt like a prison. My freedom need was holding the rest of me hostage.
Exactly. In a linear Maslow world, that looks like self-sabotage. Why are you doing this to yourself? But in the kitchen at 5 p.m., it makes perfect sense.
You can't cook dinner if the stove is literally on fire.
You have to address the freedom need before you can get back to the survival task.
So, practically speaking, if I'm stuck on that boring spreadsheet, instead of threatening myself with being fired, what's the move?
You have to ask the round table, okay, who is hungry right now? If it's the freedom need, maybe you just change your environment. You go work at a coffee shop. That one small choice can feed that need.
Or if it's the fun need that's starving.
You gamify it. You put on ridiculous music. You write in a silly font. The point is you have to feed the need that's screaming the loudest to get the whole committee back on board.
It's not about discipline. It's about negotiation.
It's about understanding the ecosystem of your own mind. You're not a robot executing code. You're a dinner party that's about to get into a food fight.
I love that. But I want to go back to something you said earlier. You called these brains Gestalt processors. And the article gets into this idea of Gestalt time and something called teleology. Now, teleology is where my eyes usually glaze over. It feels like we're back in Philosophy 101. Can we make this concrete? Hoerricks talks about the 5th dimension, but what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
Okay, let's try a GPS analogy.
GPS. I can do GPS.
Most of the world runs on what we call chronos time, linear time. That's the turn-by-turn directions list. Step 1, turn left. Step 2, go straight for 2 miles. Step 3.
That's the standard corporate workflow. Project milestones, A leads to B leads to C. No skipping ahead.
Exactly. But teleology, or this fifth dimension, is like zooming out on the map until you can see the destination pin. You aren't looking at the next turn, you're looking at the end point. You can feel the destination.
Knowing the ending before you can name the beginning.
That's the phrase she uses. Teleology is being pulled forward by the destination rather than being pushed forward by the step you just completed.
So how does that change the way you actually work?
Well, if you're a linear thinker, you start at the beginning. But if you're a teleological thinker, you might start in the middle. You might write the conclusion of your report first because that's the part you can see most clearly.
Or you might do step 10, then step 4, then step 1.
To an outsider, that looks like pure chaos. It looks like poor task switching or distraction. But it's not random. You're filling in the map based on what becomes clear to you, always guided by that final shape. You're working recursively.
This totally reframes hyperfocus, doesn't it?
Completely. In the clinical view, hyperfocus is a failure to regulate your attention. You're stuck on something. But in the teleological view, hyperfocus is a deep, uninterrupted conversation with that future shape. You're locked in because the connection to the destination is so strong, you literally can't look away.
And what about the opposite of that? What she calls the stubborn pause, when you just stop.
Think about our GPS again. Sometimes it just stops and says, rerouting. It looks like it's doing nothing, but it's actually realigning the entire route to match the destination. That stubborn pause isn't laziness, it's preparation. It's your brain calibrating to the meaning of the task before it can move your hands in the physical world.
It's like an archer pulling back a bowstring. If you just look at them, they're not doing anything, they're standing still. But if they let go before the tension is just right, the arrow goes nowhere.
That is a beautiful analogy, and it really highlights the conflict, doesn't it? Because the world we live in, the world of bosses and schools, they don't really care about the bowstring.
No, they care about the arrow hitting the target at 9 a.m. sharp.
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the villains of this piece. Hoerricks calls them the naysayers.
The naysayers with clipboards.
We all have one. Maybe it's a real person. Maybe it's just that voice in our head that sounds like our third-grade teacher. They live in Chronos time. Tick-tock.
They are fluent in measurement. They ask things like, score your basic needs on a scale of 1 to 10, or how many minutes did this task take you? They want to put the weather into a spreadsheet.
And Hoerricks says, that's just. It's impossible. She has this incredible line, some things refuse teaspoons.
You cannot measure a season with a multiple choice exam. It's just such a validation, you know? If you've ever tried to explain to a manager why you work in bursts, why you do nothing for 3 days and then a month's worth of work in 6 hours, you know this frustration. You feel like an ocean, and they're standing there with a teaspoon.
But, and we have to be real here, the world is mostly run by people with teaspoons.
It is.
We have jobs, we have bills. We can't just tell the IRS, sorry, my tax return is still ripening.
You are absolutely right. And Hoerricks isn't suggesting we just detach from reality. She's suggesting we stop internalizing the judgment of the teaspoon holders.
Okay, unpack that a little.
Yeah. Look, if the IRS says file by April 15th, that is a hard fact. That's the weather. But if you tell yourself, I haven't filed yet because I am a broken, lazy, chaotic failure, that's a deficit diagnosis. That's the part we need to change.
So we respect the deadline, but we change the story we tell ourselves about how we get to that deadline.
Yes. We stop trying to force our internal climate to match the office thermostat. If you know you're a ripener, you have to factor that ripening time in. You don't sit at your desk for 8 hours beating yourself up. You go for a walk. You let the idea ripen. You accept that your process just looks different.
It's about building a shelter that actually fits your specific kind of weather, instead of just getting mad that it's raining all the time.
Precisely. If you're prone to flooding, let's call that emotional overwhelm. You don't build your house in a valley. You build systems that account for the flood. You stop expecting yourself to be dry land 24/7.
I think that's the core of it. It's the expectation of consistency. We want to be robots. We want to be the same person every single day. But weather changes. Seasons change.
And gestalt life, as Hoerricks puts it, rarely arrives in neat tiers. It's messy, it's recursive, it loops back. And when we accept that, when we stop trying to straighten out the squiggly line of our own lives, we actually gain that sovereignty we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so let's bring this all home for the listener. We've covered a lot. We've gone from, rotting tomatoes to round tables to GPS maps. If someone is listening to this and they're feeling stuck, maybe they're in that stubborn pause right now, what is the one thing they should take away from all this?
I think it's this. Stop asking what is wrong with me and start asking, what is the weather right now?
Just identify the forecast.
Right. If you're stuck, don't double down on the survival threats. Look at that kitchen table. Is your need for freedom starving? Is your need for fun totally dead?
Don't just whip the horse harder. Feed it.
Feed the need and trust the ripening. If you're staring at a wall, just try to trust that your brain is building the map. Trust that the arrow is being pulled back. You are not failing. You are preparing.
I think that's going to be my new mantra. I'm not failing. I'm preparing.
It's a powerful shift.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought, something that kind of popped into my head while we were talking about the naysayers. If we really accept that our symptoms are weather reports, then treating them with punishment makes absolutely no sense. You don't punish a thunderstorm. You don't put a blizzard in timeout.
No, you adapt to it. You prepare for it.
So the question for you to mull over this week is this. If your current struggle, whatever symptom is bothering you most right now, is actually just a weather report, what kind of gear do you need? Do you need a raincoat? Do you need a sun hat? Or maybe do you just need permission to stay inside and wait for it to pass?
Because the weather always changes.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Exactly. Thanks for weathering this deep dive with us.
See you next time.